Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Sens Nation podcast. It is brought to you by Jim K. Ford, and we got lots to get to today. Let us start today with, right out of the gate, the big news. Lassi Thomson's back. Lassi Thomson is back in town after a year in Malmo playing for Sweden, where maybe he restored a little bit of his offensive swagger. 17 goals to lead all defensemen over in the Swedish Elite League. He is back with the Senators. He has signed a contract for $300,000 in the AHL, $775,000 in the NHL. And, I mean, it's not huge news. There's no question about that. But it is, I think, a smart signing. What did you think, Gregg?
Yeah, that was my take. At first, I was kind of pleasantly surprised at his offensive numbers. Like 17 goals is nothing to sneeze at. That's impressive for a defenseman too, right? You don't get it's tough to score 20 for a defenseman in the NHL these days. 17 goals is very impressive. And I look at it and I say, okay, he can't be worse than he was when he left. He's got to be better now. And at the very least, he replaces Travis Hamonic as a sixth or seventh, as a third pair, or the seventh D as a right shot. Like that's the way I'm looking at it. It's an upgrade in the position that he's probably going to be playing. And if he plays something higher than that, great. That means he's better. Means he's good, then that's great too. So it's really a no-brainer, I think. At NHL minimum, it's no-brainer to sign the guy.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a good American Hockey League defenseman who can pitch in if you need him at the NHL level. I look at the depth chart now. So on that right side in the NHL, it looks like Jensen, from all the talk, it sounds like he's going to be ready for opening nights. And now you have Zub, Jensen, Matt, and Paolo. And down in the American Hockey League, you're going to have Tkachuk, Thompson, and Gwinnett. So that's not a bad way to lay things out. But you can't have enough depth on defense. And this has been a club that's always seems to run into its injury issues. I never really had an issue with Lassi Thomson. I just never had any sort of feeling about him one way or the other. But when he was in the NHL, I never looked at him like, good God, liability. All I ever thought about Lassi Thomson was, meh, didn't impress me, didn't upset me. So from that perspective, there have been some guys in the Ottawa Senators NHL lineup that have played on the blue line and have sort of upset me with the way they played. So from that perspective, Thompson just adds a little more depth, and I think that's a good thing.
Well, I think the other thing that kind of goes against him was his draft position, right? It's a first-round draft choice. So that's going to increase expectations. So then when you watch him play, your expectation is so much more. You're looking for something out of the guy. Okay, be a big physical shutdown guy. He's not one of those. Okay, be an offensive producer. Be a guy who can play second power play minutes. That really hasn't happened yet either. But so who knows? After a year out overseas and the stats he put up, maybe he brings some offensive touch to the blue line.
If there's any expectations left, it's a new regime, right? They didn't draft him. I look at it like the Eric Brandstrom effect right now. If they signed Eric Brandstrom to play down in Belleville right now, obviously he's signed a 3-year contract to play in Switzerland, so that's not going to happen. But I use that as an example. If Brandstrom came here, I don't think after he's, danced his way through the NHL last year, even though he's the Mark Stone guy and all that stuff, I think that's behind him now. Because he left the organization, the new regime washed their hands of him. And I think the same is now true with Thompson. He now returns after a year away, not so much anymore as, the Steve Staios-led scouting staff's first-round draft pick, just another good asset in the organization.
Exactly. Yep. And great. Good. Okay. Let's see what he can do.
Yep. So moving on. Claude Giroux in the news. It's all buzz. It's all hype. It's all speculation. It's all reports. We're churning, obviously. We're 2 weeks away from the NHL draft. And, of course, not long after that, we get right into free agency. And Claude Giroux has been the name that everybody's been talking about. And it's one of those, TikTok things. 2 weeks from July 1st now. There's nothing to say Claude Giroux is an UFA won't go past July 1st. That's not unprecedented, but I think if he wants to get the best deal with best term, best money, he's going to want to get that done pretty quickly around July 1st and hit before the game of musical chairs of UFA has come to a close. And Nick Kypreos said this week that there's a stalemate right now, and this is far from a done deal. And a little bird told me that, and this is obviously just from a timing perspective, this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but I've heard that Giroux may have been asked by his agent to start thinking about other places he might like to go. And that's strictly the same way you may have hit your ball out of bounds, you may not have, so you hit a provisional. This would be a provisional situation, not necessarily an overture that he's definitely leaving. We're 2 weeks away, though, Gregg, and so the wheels are clearly in motion as to a potential plan B if this thing does not get done.
Yeah, and all we can really do is speculate on what's holding things up, and who knows. I got to believe that what's holding things up is possibly the Senators only offered 1 year, or maybe Giroux would like 3 years, or maybe he'd like 2 and an option. You know, I got to believe that the player would want 2 years, and I thinking the Senators would probably only want to offer 1, but would it really hurt them to offer that second year? I think 2 years is the right number, and I think somewhere between 3 and 4 million with lots of incentives is the right dollar amount. It's just a matter of getting it done, and it really comes down to Claude Giroux's belief in himself, of what he's worth, his value. And that's probably the sticking point right now, is that the player believes that he's worth more than the Senators probably in the beginning are willing to offer. So now it's a matter of negotiating, getting something done. And let's hope it happens soon, because if it goes to July 1st, who knows what kind of offer he's going to get from whoever out there. There'll be a lot of money floating around for a lot of free agents, and he'd be a guy who'd be very dependable to play anywhere in your middle six. So he'd be a guy who could command some decent cash and probably more term if he's a total free agent come July 1st.
Yeah. I wonder if it has something to do with, I mean, sometimes you get sort of the conversation we were just having about, well, I didn't draft that guy. And I wonder, because Steve Staios loves Claude Giroux, as everybody in the organization does. But maybe there was some dialogue when Pierre Dorion signed Claude Giroux to a 3-year deal about what would happen next after that. And I don't know that to be true. It's all in speculation mode right now. But yeah, I'd like to see them try and find a way to get it done. But if it's certainly not a slam dunk, like I agree with Nick Kyprios, this is far from a done deal, as we are kind of, I think, intimating here in the last month. Now that we're within 2 weeks, I can't help but ask the question, why isn't it done now? If this thing is going to be a slam dunk and everybody wants it to happen, Giroux wants it, the team wants it, it's obviously not a slam dunk, or it would have been done by now, I think.
And I wonder how much the David Perron contract factors into Claude Giroux's demands, right? Let's not forget that this team signed Perron to a 2-year deal at $4 million a year. And now you want to come in and offer Claude Giroux less than that? Potentially you're offering less than that to Giroux. I think that's a pretty good comparable, right? We always talk about comparables. When I'm shopping myself as a free agent, I go find guys with similar stats to me, and that's my comparable. Well, there's one right on your own team, and Giroux is probably more valuable, more point production, more of a lot of things than David Perron is at this stage in their careers. And I'm thinking maybe that 4 million figure that Perron has factors into Giroux's original ask in the negotiations.
Fabian Zetterlund's fate as an RFA will factor in as well, because he is eligible for arbitration. He too is a right winger, and because he had some good numbers in San Jose that might sway the arbitrator. You'd have to wonder, okay, well, if he's starting to get up over $4 million, your comparables and your cap and whether they can get this done. Maybe again, I think everybody wants to get it done, but there are a lot of variables at play. And as with some of the free agents that we're going to talk about, any free agents you bring in, you've obviously got to move something out to create cap room, and I think that's true of some of the guys that you're hoping to sign as your own UFAs, and that includes Claude Giroux. So changes might have to be made elsewhere if you're going to make the Giroux thing work, and maybe Steve Staios isn't that keen on that idea. But like I say, lots of variables, and we'll keep an eye on the Claude Giroux situation for sure. Now, let's move along to the Olympic rosters. The preliminary rosters, the first 6 players for each nation, were unveiled today. and no real big surprise that Brady Tkachuk was on Team USA and Tim Stutzle was on Team Germany. I guess maybe a little surprise. Nah, not after the Four Nations. Tkachuk was a stud there. I don't know that going to Four Nations that Brady would have been automatic for that, but based on what we saw at the Four Nations, slam dunk all the way. Really no surprise for either Germany or U.S.
Well, of course. And you could argue that Brady Tkachuk was Team USA's best player. He all around, he very well may have been their absolute best player. Game to game, consistency, shift to shift, game to game, I'd say he was their best player. And it only makes sense. I think was it Kyle Connor who got dropped from the six? I'm not even sure. I confess to poor knowledge there. But I did read an article this week in The Athletic. They were writing about the Canada's top six that were going to be announced in the U.S. top six and who's going to get in and who's going to get dropped off the list. And with Canada, you saw Marchand get dropped off and Reinhart added. And with the U.S., Brady wasn't on the six, as you mentioned, for the Four Nations, but he's on this top six now, and it makes perfect sense. That's exactly where he belongs. He is one of the top six U.S. players in the NHL.
Yeah, and I like that Germany team. If only their top six could play all 60 minutes and they didn't have to sub out, get some rest.
Yeah.
But, Germany won the silver medal at the, I think it was Pyeongchang in 2018. So if they can get a little bit of, that level of play from their lesser lights, they're not going to win a medal, I don't think, but they're always going to be a dangerous out. And it just seems like the world is getting a little closer to the so-called elite powers. Thinking about Denmark, right, beating Canada, and that wasn't a bad Canadian World Hockey Championship team, right? Like, yeah, they brought a lot of stars. Crosby and McKinnon were there, and a bunch of others. Like that was a good team, and somehow Denmark beat them. So I think that there's the usual suspects will rise to the top. The cream always does, but now that doesn't it seem to be like now at the Olympics, there's more of a threat of those one-off upsets than there's ever been.
Yeah, just don't forget Switzerland, too. I mean, they've been knocking on the door for a long time. At Worlds, at Olympics, as Switzerland's there, Denmark's there. I mean, Germany has come a long way. It's not just
Latvia.
It's not just a 5 or 6 man or 5 or 6 country event anymore. Like there'll be no Russia, but it's not just going to be Canada, U.S., Sweden, Finland. There's and Czech. There's more out there. And I love watching best on best. I think the one thing that separates them in the end, though, is that the depth, right? It always comes down to depth, as you alluded to. It's too bad Germany can't play their top six all game long. But it's the depth that ends up winning things. It's the depth that ends up separating the lesser lights from the powerhouses. Then when it comes down to head-to-head, it's all kinds of other factors. But it's the depth of the team that Canada and the U.S. and even Sweden, to a certain extent, can put on a pretty good second team, too. So that's what it comes down to in the end, is depth.
With Celebrite, enjoy effortless, customizable lighting for any event, holiday, or special moment. Our energy-efficient LEDs blend seamlessly into your home and are easily controlled through our app on your smartphone. No ladders, no hassle, just year-round brilliance. Celebrite.ca.
The Ford It's a Big Deal event is on, and right now at Jim K. Ford, you can lease a 2025 F-150 STX with black appearance package from $220 bi-weekly at 0% APR for 24 months with $43.75 down. That's like $110 weekly, plus a $750 bonus for eligible Ford owners. Hurry in, these offers won't be here for long. Visit Jim K. Ford for details or online at jimkford.com.
At Jim K. Ford Lincoln, we say yes!
Well, after some big changes with tariffs on alcohol and just about everything else on both sides of the border, here's the perfect opportunity to try out something truly local, the great products from Dunrobin Distilleries. I highly recommend picking up a nice bottle of their Beaver's Dram Canadian whiskey. It takes a lot of hard work and craftsmanship to make a whiskey this special, and who knows hard work and craftsmanship better than the Canadian Beaver? And that's why it's called the Beaver's Dram. Made in Van Clayk Hill, Ontario, just outside Ottawa, all of Dunrobin's spirits are crafted with pride with American options off the LCBO shelves. It is time to raise your glass to something that is uniquely ours. Discover DunrobinDistilleries.com, bold, smooth, and always Canadian.
And moving on, the Sens third jerseys were released since we last got together, Greg. For our YouTube viewers, here's a look at the Sens third jersey. They haven't officially unveiled it. Let's just say that they had a season ticket holder summit about a week ago, and they put it up on the big screen. They had sort of close-ups of it on the big screen, and then one big wide shot for just one frame, so you got a sense of it. And it looks like it is that red jersey that was leaked out about a month ago, I guess, with the black shoulders and all red with a bit of gold on it as well. What say you about that particular style?
I'm not a fan, but I like white. I like having more pure white in there. I do like the added gold. I'm hoping that the numbers at least have, and the name bar has some sort of white and gold around it so that you can see those numbers. As you said many times, black numbers on a red jersey, not good. Not very difficult to see for the press box or for the play-by-play guy on TV or radio. But I mean, it's okay. It's all right. You got to have a third jersey. It's red with some black. I'd just like to see a little more white and definitely love the gold.
I guess they're selling jerseys, right? So they don't want to replicate something they've done in the past. If that weren't in play, there have been some good jerseys this organization has had over the years. Is there one that you really liked that is now defunct that you would? I'm obviously not going to do it because, again, they want to sell new jerseys. People have those jerseys. But is there an old jersey from the past they don't use anymore that you'd like to see them use as their third now if you had your druthers?
Yeah. I like the barber pole. I like that sort of off-white. Was that the Parliament Hill game? Did they wear the barber poles or did they wear that one that was kind of off-white, maybe more of a taupey? It wasn't a pure white. I like that. It was old school.
Yeah, that was during the Heritage game against the Vancouver Canucks. They wore that one. Yeah. There was no actual game at Parliament Hill except for the alumni outdoor skate. But
what did they wear?
I know the one you mean, and they just wore, I think, standard Sens uniforms.
They just wear standards? Okay. Well, the barber pole was like the third for a while, right? Yeah, somewhere they've worn the barber. I always liked the barber pole, and I like that creamy off-white one for that Vancouver game. That's a good-looking jersey.
Yeah, the barber pole would work for me as well. That's a great idea. So the Sens third jersey is out there. They're going to actually officially launch it sometime in September. I don't know if they mean by they're going to wear it in September in a preseason game, or if that's just, the day that they'll have a news conference to fully unveil it. The gold in it is a lot like, not sort of the flat gold, more the metallic gold that Vegas has all over their jerseys. So that gives you a sense of it. And it's a good chance for you to check out YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Sens Nation is on YouTube. And you can, instead of me trying to describe it, you can actually just look at it over my shoulder right now. Very easy, very simple. It's right there. Moving on again. Man, I shouldn't just transition with moving on.
Actually, Steve, something's been gnawing in the back of my brain since we talked about the Olympics and the ice surface. And I'm thinking the Olympics in Italy this year is on a 200 by 85. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm thinking I'm at least 85% sure that they're playing on an NHL-sized ice surface in Italy for the 2026 Olympics. And I think that if people are patient with you, Steve, you could probably Google that. And then if it is 200 by 85, look out for Brady Tkachuk playing at that level. And what kind of a havoc he's going to wreak as a physical specimen playing against some of the lesser teams that are going to be in the Olympics.
You are absolutely correct, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize.
No, it's fine.
2026 Winter Olympics will be played on NHL-sized ice. So I apologize for wasting what may have been up to 3 or 4 minutes of your time, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe I'll just edit that whole thing out. Or maybe I won't. It's difficult to say. Yeah, I'll see. I should also cut out this hat that I'm wearing for you YouTube listeners. Got a Sens cap on. I'm very pleased with this. The one that DJ Smith unveiled, the kind of the tricolor one, but it's it played a little bit too much golf in it, so it's got this horrible salt ring on the front of it now. That sort of white frost going, so that's not healthy. Not a good.
Yeah, but I can't dress
now
for the show today.
Yes. Representing
Yeah. There it is, folks.
Sens Nation. You know what's weird is like when I say something, I can actually hear it kind of feeding back through your microphone about 2 seconds later. That's freaking me out today.
Sorry.
Okay. Now we're going to move on.
Okay.
So podcaster Jeff Merrick threw it out there this week that maybe the Sens are a dark horse, that Mike Andlauer maybe wants to make a splash this summer, that maybe he is in the mix, the Sens, for the services of Mitch Marner, who everybody expects to sign somewhere else. Elliot Friedman said he might be willing to take a 4-year contract. I saw that report today. But I don't know if we want to spend a lot of time on this, but I did want to address it.
Okay.
And I don't want to steer you in a certain direction, which is what I sometimes say when I steer you in a certain direction. But is there a chance in hell that the Sens would get something done with Mitch Marner? Does it make sense at all?
No. It doesn't make sense in so many reasons, right? Like financially, like where are you going to find the money to pay him without subtracting from your roster? He is nowhere near the type of player that this team requires. The offensive production out of a top 6 or top 3 forward, yes. The rest of his game, well, he is an elite penalty killer, and he's not too bad in a power play, but he's soft, right? He has a serious, well, he's proven it time and time again that he's not a playoff performer. And this team, this is not the type of player this team's looking for. This team is looking for a player who can produce like Mitch Marner, but looks and acts and plays like Brady Tkachuk. That's what this team's looking for. Big, strong, physical, fast producers. Like that's the kind of specimen they're looking for. And I keep looking at Mitch Marner, and I keep looking at Austin Matthews and John Tavares and all that group down there who that team all those guys, they needed to learn how to put it out. Here it is. They have to hate losing more than they love winning. And that was the biggest problem with the Leafs, always has been for the last 5 or 6 years, and that's Mitch Marner. So, no, you don't need him. You can't fit him into your cap. There's no reason to try to do it, and he's not the right type of player you're looking for. To me, forget about it. Turn a page.
I don't think it's a mistake for every team. I think that Mitch Marner will find a home and a lot of money, and if it's the right situation, I think he could thrive. Like, he was really good at the Four Nations for Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the right situation, if he's not seen as one of the guys you defer to in that room, and he's more of a complementary piece, and it's hard to call a guy who's as productive offensively as he is a complementary piece. I mean that more of a team leadership, pulling on the rope together scenario. I don't want him to be the loudest voice in the room necessarily, he and maybe another guy. I want him to be one of 7 or 8 guys who are quite loud in the room. To me, like I look at the Florida Panthers, as we look at what Mitch Marner can deliver at playoff time. To me, not all the Florida Panthers are playing like Sam Bennett out there. They're not all that type of player. But because most of the core has that sort of psyche of just finish your hits, be a pain in the ass, be mean out there, be a SOB. You know, even the soft skill guys kind of buy into a degree. And so in the right situation, and clearly that situation wasn't Toronto, and I think we can argue the same is true here in Ottawa. I think the Senators, as good as they looked this season, finally getting back to the playoffs, they need to add more hard skill, and Marner would fall right into the same situation that he was in Toronto if he came to Ottawa. If he ends up with the Florida Panthers or maybe the Tampa Bay Lightning, then maybe it starts to, be a boon for that team, and Marner becomes exactly what you hope he can become playoff time, because he will kind of morph into whatever they are. But right now it doesn't make sense in Toronto, and it doesn't make sense in Ottawa.
And the other thing is we have no idea what Mitch Marner's looking for. Like, is he looking to, people talk about it, is he looking to play somewhere where he's anonymous and nobody knows who he is? Or is he, like most free agents, looking for a place to go where he can win? Or is he looking for a place where he gets the most money? Like, you don't know what his shopping list is. To me, you look around the NHL, He would fit in Carolina. He would definitely fit with the Islanders. I could see him playing the wing with Sidney Crosby. There are certain he could fit in Chicago. There are certain places where I could see him going, but Colorado, but is he interested in that? Like, do you really think he wants to play in Carolina for Rod Brind'Amour? He'd fit nicely in the roster, and that you talk about the rest of the group pulling him along, and he learns to play a different game because of the guys in the room with him. That'd be a perfect fit. Or Matthew Barzal looking for somebody to play with him, and Horvat, or looking for somebody to play with. Who else did I say? Islanders. Colorado's still looking for somebody to replace Rantanen. Natchez, maybe not. So there's a hole there. Like, he's got lots of spaces to go to, but I don't know what he's looking for. Like, maybe he just wants to go to San Jose and be ignored. Who knows?
Yeah, I do think that's exactly what he's looking for. Just a guess, and obviously I don't know for sure, but that guy has had many lifetimes worth of media scrutiny in Toronto. I think that wherever he ends up, it will be everywhere is a softer media market than the Toronto market, but I think he'll be looking for something substantially less in the way of attention and recognition when he tries to go to the grocery store for a round of golf or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm expecting for Mitch Marner. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Utah,
finally.
Yeah,
sure. Stanley Cup Final. As we speak right now, it is the Florida Panthers up 3-2 on the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton had that crazy comeback, like, wow. And then all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, it's going to be the craziest best of three. And then kind of Florida really took it to them in game 5. Edmonton with that crazy comeback from a 3-0 deficit. And they take the lead, and then they give up the lead and win in overtime. Crazy. I was thinking, okay, they're a team of destiny. And then they come out and play like that against Florida in game 5. So what are you expecting from the last game? Maybe 2.
Game 5, I thought, again, Florida basically, we're playing our way tonight. I tweeted something last week about this after the rough and tumble, dirty, lots of shots, crap going on after the whistle game that Florida won. Like, don't everybody talks about how important goaltending is, and special teams is important, and the 7-player profile and all these different things. But one thing that's very important in every series, especially a Stanley Cup Final, is who dictates the style of play. And really, in games 1 and 2, even though it was a split, Edmonton dictated the style of play. It was a track meet up and down the ice. Both teams playing high speed, high tempo, exchanging chances, odd man rushes. Then in game 3, suddenly Florida said, now we're playing our game. And even to a certain extent in game 4, even though they blew the lead and lost the game, they played a Florida Panther game. And game 5 was, oh my God, a textbook Florida Panther game, like clogging the middle of the ice, above your check everywhere, just trapping people along the walls. It was Florida Panthers to a T. The shots were like less than 20 for Edmonton. They never got going all game long. You couldn't generate anything through the neutral zone. They kept going up the walls and getting shut down. I think that if Florida continues to dictate the style of play, and they should have a good opportunity to do that at home, in game 6 with last change, I think it's all over tomorrow night. What do you think?
It's been fun to watch Corey Perry and Brad Marchand at their age defying time and being such effective leaders for their respective teams. I mean, it looked like the Oilers got unhinged, and they've been an emotional group throughout, where Florida to me has looked just like, we're here to kick you in the face and do what we have to do. They're the defending champions, and they're playing like it. And I don't even think it'll get to 7 this year, to be honest. I think the Oilers looked a little frazzled to me, and so that's what I think is going to happen. But you talk about Marchand, like, just an unbelievable game. Some people are talking about him for the Conn Smythe. I'm not sure I'm there yet, but I'm awfully close. And I wonder, if you're Steve Stais, he's not coming to Ottawa, I don't think. He's got ties here. Drake Batherson, he's talked a million times here on the show about the East Coast skate. He knows Brad Marchand really well. Maybe it could be Steve Stais's, mole or spy or whatever, and say getting in his ear this summer. But
Recruiter.
I mean, yeah, at least making a pitch, like, for what you're going to give Claude Giroux, might offer him, add $2 or $3 million to that, and that might be the number that Brad Marchand settles for somewhere. I just don't think it's going to be Ottawa, but he at least making a pitch.
Yeah, you make the first call and say, look, before, same thing I said last week when we were talking about, who was the other free agent we were talking about? I don't even remember now. Jonathan Taves. To me, the first phone call is, are you even remotely interested in coming here? Otherwise, there's no point. Like, I'm not going to put together, there's no need to discuss term and dollars or anything else. Are you even remotely interested in coming here? Put in that call to the agent, and then it's either, okay, we put together a package, or, all right, thanks for taking our time. We'll talk next time. See you next time, whatever. You're walking away from it. I think the other one is Aaron Ekblad, too. I'd love to see Aaron Ekblad. I don't think he's going to come here. I don't think Sam Bennett's going to come here. Like, there's three guys there that would look just wonderful in that lovely new third jersey of the Ottawa Senators, but I don't think any of them are going to come here.
Yeah, Bill Zito is just going to be scrambling to try and keep that team together, obviously. 3 straight years in the Cup final and looking for all the world like they're going to win their second ring later this week. So it'll be interesting to see what happens down in Sunrise this summer. But we are going to take our leave for today. Apologies for a little bit of delay over the last week, and I want to say condolences, Gregg. Your mom passing away the other day. It's always a kick in the head when you lose a parent, but my sincere condolences.
Thank you, Steve.
And that's why we haven't been doing the show.
Thank you, my friend.
We'll call it quits right there, lady. Yeah. Thanks for being with us, ladies and gentlemen, and don't forget that our website is sensnationhockey.com. Check out the hockey news, thn.com/Ottawa. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks, Gregg.
Good night, sir. Thank you.